you're thinking about doing a market research study that will help you get some PR, but you've really never done it before. Good news, we've got Becky Lawlor from Redpoint who's going to help with our Wednesday wisdom today on what it takes and what are the steps to lay out a PRable research study. So Becky, where do you start? What's step number one?
Step number one is you've got to figure out what your research strategy is, and that includes what your topic is going to be. But part of that research strategy is, we talked about PR, that's a goal. You need to know what your outcomes are. If PR is your outcome, then that would be it. If you have some other outcomes, you need to have those in place as well. So that's step one, figuring out your strategy.
Right. We're going to have a strategy. Good thing. Okay. So we've decided we want to measure the mood of chief marketing officers right now in 2024. And that's going to end up getting us stories in Adweek and Ad Age and all these things. Okay. So now that we know where we want to get the story and kind of what the story might be, what's number two?
Number two is you need to figure out where you're going to find that audience to survey. Do you have, 500 CIOs on speed dial? Probably not. So you need to figure out if you have an email list that is large enough. And I want to emphasize here that it needs to be pretty large. Standard, you're going to see 1% to 2% response rate. If you have a super engaged list and they're super interested in the topic, maybe you'll get to 5 to 10%. Otherwise, you need to find a panel vendor that's going to be able to survey this very specific audience for you.
Right. And this is a really important part of this thing, because typically, and I don't know what you're you want a minimum of 100, but really, obviously, if you want to slice and dice it, 300, 500, the more, the better, particularly if they're segments, right? I mean, I'm not making that up, right?
No, if you want to be able to slice and dice it, you need to have larger segments. It is okay to do smaller ones with a B2B professional audience because they can be harder to reach, but then you're limited on how much you can splice the data and use it kind of for different.
So if you think you have a list and you have 10,000, like let's just say B2B CMOs, which there aren't 10,000 B2B CMOs, just for the record, and you're going to get 2% of those folks to respond, now you know you're going to get 200 responses, unless you incentivize a lot, right? You could suddenly be paying $250 per response if you're trying to do that. So that's why you look at these panels, and that's why you work with a professional like Becky. Okay, so we've got our strategy, we've got our panel and our panel size or audience size. What's next?
Next is you got to write the actual survey. And here again, I've given this tip before, but it's so important, I'm going to give it again. If you haven't written a survey, if you don't have experience in survey design, get help. This is not as simple as it seems. I know it seems like you can just write a survey question and all go well. You really need to understand what types of questions and how to format them in order to both get quality data and make that data transform into interesting messaging when it comes to content.
Yeah, I'm going to double down on that and say a lot of the research studies that we've done, we've designed the questions, we've done a quick test or two, both internally and externally, and realize, you know what, we didn't phrase that question quite right, or we missed a question, or oh, this is completely wrong. And so sometimes you really have to, you cannot spend enough time, even though I know your process is pretty fast, you cannot spend enough time thinking through the survey because your answers will only be as good as the questions that you ask, right?
Absolutely. And this is why I also say the next step would be test and validate your survey. I bring in actually outside survey design experts in the testing stage. And we also do a soft launch when it's in the field, stop it at 10% and double check that everything seems like it's flowing the way you would. If you're really surprised by how people are responding, you need to stop and check and say, like, is it just surprising or are they not understanding the question?
Okay, so now we've tested it. Now we're fielding the study. Now what?
The last step is to actually go in and clean your data and analyze it. You want to make sure you take out any responses that, especially if you are doing like social media to gather, you're going to get spam and you're going to have to clean it. So the analysis part is not just looking at your results, but cross-tabbing or slicing that data by different demographics or whatever you have in your survey to get more interesting insights and stories that you can further use for PR.
There it is. All right. Well, look, if you're a B2B CMO and you need some market research, do yourself a favor, check out Redpoint. If you're a B2B CMO who can share, care, and dare with the best of them, do yourself a favor and check out CMOHuddles.com. I'm Drew Neiser. That's your Wednesday Wisdom. Peace out.